Hey guys, since the other day was such a quick day and it was last Wednesday, my guess is some of you may need a little refreshing on how to import a video file into Photoshop for the purposes of animation. This is going to be part one, and then part two will be taking these from Photoshop rather, into Illustrator so you can use the pen tool and all the splendor that the brushes palette has to offer. So the first thing you want to do, let's go up to File, Import Video Frames to Layers, and we're going to select our video. There it is. Go ahead and click OK, and then that's going to bring up this Import Video to Layers option palette. There's a few different things you can select within the range to import. So what they mean by that is the range of frames to import. So if you haven't done any pre-editing, which I'm gathering a lot of you haven't, you can click on selected range only and use these little sliders to isolate a particular part of the video. Now, if you click play, it'll show you the loop that you've selected here. The other thing you can do, if you want it to be the clip, if you want that to be longer, but you're concerned about the number of layers that it's going to import into Photoshop, you can actually limit the layers. And for the purposes of GIFs, this will be just fine. GIFs are usually a little rougher than HD animation, obviously, and even kind of rougher than broadcast video, anything like that. So you can actually specify how many frames to drop out. So you can say limit to 2 frames, which will give you every other. You can do 3 frames, which would give you 1 and then delete 2, and then give you 1 and then delete 2. And this can radically lower the amount of frames that you have to animate later. So I'm going to actually just go with the selected range and unselect the limit to every frames and click OK. And you can see what that brought up are 19 individual layers that do a full loop of my animation. And then I need to pull up the timeline palette. So we're going to go to Window and then Timeline. And this will show you your GIF. Here it is. So there's a couple of options that you need to know, and a couple of things that might bear a little explanation. So I'm going to go ahead and stop it. So this adds another dimension to Photoshop, obviously time, which can be a bit tricky. So you can adjust individually by selecting a single frame or multiple frames at the same time by holding down the Shift key and clicking Arrange. You can adjust the amount of time that they are shown for. Or you can slow it down by extending the amount of time. I'll show you what that does. So you click this little drop down, these little arrows on any one of these. Because we have them all selected, it will globally attribute the amount of time we give to it. We'll say a second, that's way too long, but you'll get an idea. It's this really choppy stop motion animation sort of thing. So the other thing, like I mentioned, because there's this added dimension of time, you can see, keep your eye over here as I click the layers. The layers are turned on for each particular frame and off. So if you're getting a lot of weird jump cuts or glitches when you're actually hitting play, it's most likely because you've turned on some additional layers in there. The other thing I want to mention is that we're going to go ahead and make a new layer. We're going to drag this all the way to the top just for the purposes of demonstration. So you can drag it up there, or you can go to Image, Arrange, send to back, send backwards, which will do one layer, or you can bring to front. It's already at the front, so that option's grayed out. But that's a quicker way to shuffle layers from bottom to top or top to bottom if you need it. In any case, we're going to draw a ball and fill it with that green color. And so that green ball is in that place on frame 1. I'm going to select frame 2 and move it over 2 clicks with my arrow pad, the directional pad, and 2 clicks down. I'm going to go click on frame 3, 2 over, 2 down, 2 over, 2 down, 2 over, 2 down, 2 over, 2 down. And what that's going to do, oops, let's make this speed up quite a bit. You can see I'm shifting it back and forth. So I'm not actually having to make a new layer every time. The timeline is actually recording that particular layer at that particular moment on the timeline. So it's possible to animate a single object around the screen just by shifting it around. You could drag it a finite amount in each individual frame and move it that way. You could create a bouncing ball effect, or some sort of streak of light, something like that, where the object itself doesn't change, but the position in the frame does, which would allow you to animate it a lot quicker because you wouldn't have to redraw that object every single time. Because we're dealing with something that changes perspective, like this hammer and the hand, you will have to animate that every time, but for other objects, this might be a good solution. Alright, so take a peek at the second video where we export these layers as individual files and then drag them into Illustrator. Thanks.